Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
Did you like that casual talking at the beginning? Was it natural and not at all contrived?
I just want everyone to know now that every time these begin, it is contrived. All of our genuine charm out the window.
I think it has to exist in the first place to throw it out the window. But anyway,
Fair enough.
Today we're back to read more of Ben Shapiro's How to Debate Leftists, 11 Rules for Winning the Argument.
Before we start, we talked about this a little bit, but Ben Shapiro said a dumb thing again.
Oh, wow.
Very close.
It's a day that ends in Y.
Very close to the now infamous clip that Harry used in his video against Ben Shapiro. Mm-hmm. Very similar to the sell your underwater homes bullshit. He said today that the American healthcare system isn't that bad because our life expectancy rates are pretty good if you erase car accidents and suicide. And I think murder was the other thing. Yes, Ben.
Suicide is also a mental health issue, which is a health issue.
Those are...
And also related to guns often, as well as the homicide. Anyway.
Well, fewer dead people increase our life... Yes. Of course. This is math. It's how it works. Fuck, Ben.
Anyway, today we're continuing in the introduction, because last time we didn't even get through the intro.
We didn't get through the intro?
No.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know if we might this time. We'll see. We're starting this time with the title Institutional Takeover. This is going to be about how Ben believes that colleges are full of liberals, and that is somehow contrived and bad. Okay. See, it all came together, contrivances, but I think we'll talk a little bit about how the reason that colleges are full of left-leaning people is not necessarily the reason Ben thinks that it is. So, without further ado, I guess let's go ahead and get on this shit train.
All right.
That's a phrase. That's a phrase I'm gonna coin.
Shit train? Let's get on the shit train?
Yeah. The leftist bullies have taken over the major institutions of the United States. The university system has been monopolized by a group of folks who believe that it's no longer worthwhile debating the evidence on tax rates, or whether the Laffer curve is right, or whether Keynesian policies actually promote economic growth. I find the characterization that Ben has of university people, I assume he's talking about professors as opposed to the college students he normally tries to talk to. Sure. People in academia, their entire job is to research things and debate them amongst people in their fields. Yeah. That's their job. To say that they don't do that is to completely disregard the entirety of what they do when they're not actively teaching.
Also, colleges are private, Ben. Wouldn't this suggest that the market has determined that it's more profitable to teach a certain curriculum, teach a certain set of facts and opinions even? And wouldn't this suggest, Ben, the very successful multi-trillion-dollar college system, wouldn't this suggest, Ben, that the free market just disagrees with you and that's okay?
They don't want to debate those issues. What they want us to teach instead is that you are personally ignorant, bigoted, corrupt, and mean if you disagree with them. Their opinions are not opinions. They are fact. Again, he's conflating for some reason. He's conflating economic sciences with the social sciences, even though they're completely different departments. Generally speaking, you can talk about economic trends and say, like, for instance, hey, higher tax rates on low-income earners are going to affect minority populations more because they make less money in this country due to institutional, long-lasting prejudices. But, like, that's not me saying to you, you're a piece of shit if you don't agree with Keynesian economics. It's me saying, like, hey, maybe we should look at this set of facts and try and make policy decisions based on those facts. Whereas Ben takes someone disagreeing with him, and it gets his emotions all up, and he gets all up. No, he does. I know and he gets all frustrated. Yeah. He's like, you're just saying I'm a bad... Like, Ben, just because you feel guilty about your positions doesn't mean someone is accusing you of something. Don't let your emotions take over your opinion making, because then you end up with bad opinions.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he takes the natural conclusion that if I vote for X that harms minorities, then that means that I am bigoted. And some people do use that argument because, like, if you knowingly vote for things that uniquely harm minorities, at a certain point, you're at base level, you're doing bigoted things.
Sure.
Like, that doesn't necessarily make you a bigot. But I mean, like if you're like, nah, but it's good for them. I don't know. It's probably bigoted, but like maybe like a small b. You can get out of that, right?
Sure.
Ben, at this point, you've attached the capital B to your bigotry. It's just a fact. Like the other day, he was talking about how this is sort of connected to this because I assume he's going to bring up gender studies or something.
Sure.
Because he's implying it right here. But he talked about like how if you properly gender someone in a debate about gender, you lose the debate. So he intentionally, and he said this out loud, he intentionally misgenders people that he otherwise wouldn't. He says, I wouldn't in like personal, but like when I'm debating, I have to win. So in order to win, I can't just acquiesce because if I do gender them correctly, I lose the debate about gender. And it's like, how are you so like it I don't know, what's the term? What's even the term for that? I guess that's cognitive dissonance. It's basically like I would normally gender someone correctly, meaning you understand that it's important, right?
Yeah.
And understand the validity of doing so. But to win, not going to do it.
Which he fucks up sometimes anyway,
I
by
know.
the way.
He does that all the
Sometimes he fucks
time.
up and correctly genders someone on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the hallmark of being stuck inside a bubble. The people who occupy the professorate have not had to work a real job, a job with real-world consequences, in over 30 years.
Oh, Ben, you don't get to say that. Ben, you don't get to say that.
You're a fucking... Okay, Ben, if teaching at a university is not a real job, which it absolutely is, by the way...
You need a master's degree to even teach it.
Then what is what you do for a living, Ben? Because you literally go on speaking tours, and you... What? You can't say that.
But he makes a lot of money, you see.
Oh, is it based on how much money you make?
His wife's a doctor, don't you know?
I did not know that.
He always brings it up.
I was going to say, because he never mentions it.
He never brings it up. No.
They've lived on campuses where everyone agrees with them, convincing them that their beliefs are universally held. Anyone who disagrees is a flat earther. Anyone who disagrees is a monster.
No,
you are a monster.
What makes you a flat earther is if you believe the earth is flat.
Yeah, no, but generally speaking, the people in those fields, for instance, let's say someone is a sociology professor. Let's say they're a PhD in sociology.
Yep.
Or something of, or even like a PhD in women's studies or something.
Anthropology, women's studies.
Whatever.
History with a focus on women's groups. I've taken all of these classes, except for women's studies.
I don't understand where Ben thinks ideas, as a society, where ideas and what we determine to be right come from. Essentially boils down to who is the most intensively looking into this constantly as a job.
Yeah.
And that's whether it's in the university or if you go back in time and it's a less formal thing.
Absolutely.
It's that. But the people who are in that field and talk about it, they are the authorities on that subject. So, for instance, in sociology, when we talk about gendering people and stuff like that, when we say, or when people who are actually like authorities in that say, you should gender people properly because effectively what we know is gender as opposed to the biological sex. Gender is a sociological construct. Right. That is true because the people who determine what sociological constructs are have said that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also...
It's prescriptive, not descriptive.
Yeah, I mean, beyond it being pretty obvious, when you start to ask people questions probing into specifically their gender and not their sex,
sure, the
answers you get seems to imply a socially constructed metaphorical substrate or something. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I've taken classes like this before, where I've taken sociology, anthropology, for both men and women. I've taken history classes from both men and women, and I took one history class that had a focus on women's history, because that was what her PhD was in. She actually runs the museum locally. She's the curator for that, and she's really dope. but she's written a series of books on this and Native American women and just kind of like the entire structure therein. I learned a lot from that class, and it wasn't like, although I believe she's like a second wave feminist, like it wasn't like preachy or anything, and there was a lot, I mean, apparently Ben hasn't been to a college in years, because my college had a lot of debates with, people that were very conservative.
My experience in college is like the opposite of what Ben is saying.
Exactly, mine too.
College, as opposed to something like high school. High school is teaching you, here are the facts, here are the things.
Boring.
College is about, here's how to think about things.
Yeah,
let's talk about this issue.
Let's colloquy,
take this information in and create your own positions on it.
Absolutely.
And in fact, I had like a professor of U.S. like civics and history, who openly would say like, oh, and they used to call me Mr. Fox News. And he was a right-leaning guy.
Yeah. I took the Bible as history class from a Christian.
Sure.
Right.
So universities have a plethora of different people. I would argue that certainly there's a higher instances of people being left, but I would say that's because I think the more education you get, the more likely you're going to see the validity in left-leaning ideology.
Well, not even left-leaning, like just not conservative, right?
Sure.
Because kind of as you learn more information, it tends to show a track record of the status quo not being great long term.
Yeah.
There's periods of validity for maintaining the status quo. For instance, U.S. protectionism prior to World War II. Probably a pretty good thing for a little bit. And then it went a little too far. We waited too long. People died because of it. Ended up going to World War II for various reasons. But and it turned out to be, it probably saved Great Britain and prevented, a lot of bad shit from happening. That was a conservative notion. It's just like America is itself, and we don't. And now you have the gay rights movement, civil rights movement, women's suffrage. All of these things break eventually to the will of people wanting to move progressively towards the future, and that's just what it's always going to be. And then, like, just taking in not even basic history classes, basic anything classes outside of math, because math doesn't really talk socially.
Sure.
You could talk about literature. You could go to school for being a fucking doctor. You're going to learn progressive biology. It's not going to be creationism. It's not because they're politically slanted. It's because these are facts, right? And so you're just going to start to break down these notions of your tightly held conservative beliefs, just innately. And of course, being more educated in general, you just sort of broaden an open perspective. And college is sometimes, especially around here where it's really rural and white some places, might be the first time people encounter minorities or openly gay people or all sorts of stuff. So, it just breaks down. Some people don't. Some people are still conservative as fuck.
Sure.
But,
look at Ben. He went to college.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, but, that was, paid for. He didn't have any loans.
They used to call this Pauline Kael syndrome. Pauline Kael used to be a columnist for The New Yorker back in 1972. Writing about the George McGovern-Richard Nixon landslide election, she famously observed, "I live in a rather special world. I only know one person who voted for Nixon. Where they are, I don't know. They're outside my ken. But sometimes when I'm in the theater, I can feel them." She would feel the evil rolling off these people. Now, I think he's using this to kind of make fun of her, but bear in mind, she's talking about Richard Nixon. Yeah, Richard Nixon was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, objectively.
Tricky dick.
In as much as you can objectively say anyone is a bad guy, Richard Nixon was certainly one of them.
Here's the litmus test. If Barack Obama did a thing your guy did, would you be mad at Barack Obama for the thing? Because he hates Barack Obama, right?
Yeah.
So if he does the same thing, are you going to hold him to a standard? If the answer is yes, and it mostly is, then yeah, bad stuff.
Speaking of bubbles, by the way, I would argue Ben, being pretty privileged his entire life, lives in his own little rich boy bubble.
He does live in a rich boy bubble.
So I'd imagine a lot of his positions on things like welfare and food stamps and stuff like that. Any basically social program is painted by this view where him and all his friends are fine and have done great, and anyone who hasn't done great, that must be their own fucking fault.
They literally, he comes out and says, just get another job. There are finite amounts of jobs, especially for the people that need more than one job.
Yeah.
Because, And I hear this a lot from bootstrap conservatives, which is pretty much all of them, where they basically say like, oh, there's not a finite amount of jobs. If you go into the job market, you'll find a job. Like, there's lots of places that are looking for people to hire. Yeah, but the people that need 2 fucking jobs aren't getting those jobs. We have a lack of skilled workers, not a lack of unskilled workers.
I would also,
because our education system is fucked, our healthcare system is fucked, and so like these all compound. As a person who sees benefits in capitalism, these guys don't understand how to run it. You need healthy, well-educated populace to have a good capitalist system. And they don't want to do it. That's why we need a mixed system. But I see benefits of having a little peeps of capitalism here and there, so that you can incentivize people doing stuff that otherwise maybe not everybody wants to do. Trash collection is usually the one we go to for this.
At university level, this perspective is commonplace, and that leads to ideological discrimination. That discrimination generally doesn't manifest as purposefully giving conservatives bad grades. Most professors try to stay away from that, and do not attempt to destroy people in the classroom. Except for a few not that rare exceptions, professors will, however, grade conservative perspectives down unconsciously because they believe those perspectives are wrong, and the people who advocate for them are bad.
Does he have a citing for that at all?
No,
There's
no citations in this.
Of course, there's not. So, I don't really understand what that. Unless you
it's
mean
his feeling. He feels this.
Unless you
very strongly. His feeling is that this happens. And by the way, again, if the teacher who has like a PhD in a subject thinks you, the student, are wrong, guess who's probably right? The person with the PhD.
Yeah.
And it's not because you're conservative. It might be because your position, which happens to be conservative, happens to be wrong.
Like, for instance, the age of the earth. If you write God did it 3,000 years ago, or whatever the fuck you believe, you're going to be wrong on that question. That is not the scientific consensus. I don't know, like where did the first humans come from? Like, what did they evolve from? Evolution's not real. Well, you're gonna fucking fail these types of things. Like, it's just how it is, because you live in a fucking dreamland, man. These aren't real. It's just your feelings. Again, like you said, it's just, I want to feel this thing.
Yeah.
And you just get uncomfortable when the facts disagree with that. And I mean, they don't care about your feelings.
That's why when I was in college, I wrote a... oh boy. That's why when I was in college, I wrote like a communist on my tests. Thank God for blue books. I would put my student ID number on my blue books, and I was now indistinguishable from a member of the Spartacus Club. I recommend this strategy for all conservative students at liberal organizations and liberal universities. So, there's no reason to sacrifice your grades because your professor's a jerk. So,
blue books are what you take tests in to be confidential if you don't know, and you write your student number on them instead of your name. And it's a way for them to make sure that there wasn't tomfoolery in regards to your test taking.
Sure, but like, okay, Ben, you're saying that conservative perspectives aren't shown, but you're also saying if you are a conservative, don't say those things in the classroom. Which is it, Ben? It sounds to me like you maybe just don't want people to have their views confronted directly by a teacher in any way, shape, or form, because that might actually change their perspective.
This is why I loved philosophy class. He allowed open debate. Shout out Dr. Wolf. Good guy. He runs a AM radio station, like, philosophy thing.
Okay.
It's probably awful, but what a great guy. Loved that. I still remember there was this one chud in class who just hated my fucking guts. And it was because I was pro-abortion.
Yeah.
He just fucking hated me.
Sure.
Every day he would like try to yell at me. It was really fun. I love that class so much. More open debates in classrooms, damn it.
That's, again...
More of them. So good.
Ben acts like this isn't the case, but when I was in college, in basically every class, except for my art appreciation class...
Yeah, I had a few classes, like math doesn't really come up very often.
But the political classes, all of them employed open debate and having students have input and then discussion. That's the point.
Even my anthropology class had open discussion.
It's about learning to learn. It's about learning to learn from each other and others and have discussions about these topics, because that's how, as a species, we come to consensuses and learn more about these topics.
I took a Western Civ class where it was a combo class, English for 2 hours, history for 2 hours, 4 hours super class, and both would reflect the other class because they worked together on it. And there was open debate, like, what do you think this means? And we were reading some book about Greco-Roman history or some shit, from a fictional perspective. So do you what parts of actual history do you think are being plucked and used? And there was open debates about it, and it made everybody think real hard about it. And while it wasn't like a supercharged like political stance to take, just the practice of actually like having to come up with arguments for what you think made you synthesize the information in both the history and the English classes. Yeah. Because you can't make a good argument unless you know the shit, right? Yep. And so this is the kind of stuff that I absolutely loved the whole time in college. And I don't know, Ben would have been an absolutely wonderful addition to my philosophy class because I not a lot of people wanna be that guy. Ben's super comfortable being that guy though.
Yeah. This sort of bullying isn't just present at universities. It has taken over the media wholesale. For the media, all arguments are character arguments. If you disagree with a member of the media about something, you are fundamentally a bad human being. Again, no citation or anything. He's just saying his feelings.
Are you? Would someone calling you a bad person be a bad thing, Ben?
See, if someone calls me a bad person,
fuck 'em.
I then try and decide, is the basis correct or not? And if I don't feel bad about it, generally I don't think they're right.
My initial reaction was fuck them because they're probably just mad at you for something irrational. But okay, so assume they were like, Hugo, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like genuine reflection should take place there, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, most reasonable people do, even if at first you're real stubborn about it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, like for any Ben just never seems to back down from that shit.
No, it's because his conscience goes, hey Ben, maybe this is not a good thing to believe. And then he goes, no, I'm already right. No, conscience, fuck you. Then he flicks the cricket off his fucking shoulder.
Conservatives, if you want to win elections, here's how you do it, okay? Take everything we think you're going to be bad on and be good on it. Be like, you know what? I like gender studies. You know what? I think maybe we should look at our economic programs in regards to minorities. You know what? I'm fine with gendering you however you want. You know what? Maybe religion should stay out of politics.
Just give it a try and see how you feel.
Shit. Like, this is the same thing. Like, Ben is one of the people that's like, no, we need the electoral college, or the West Coast elites are going to take over. Have you considered being popular?
The same is eminently true in Hollywood, where moral narrative is at the heart of the business. Yes, storytelling as a business or otherwise involves morals, because that's what storytelling generally is about. Good call, Ben.
You're a fundamentally religious person, and you don't think like moral messaging is good? What?
No, he likes it when it's his moral messaging.
All right, fuck him.
Hollywood is incredibly clever about pushing their narrative. They create a set of characters that you believe in, like, and want to hang out with. You want to come back and hang out with those characters week after week after week. Then Hollywood twists your newfound friends into exemplars of absolutely irresponsible behavior, representative of behavior you find personally unpalatable. Okay. Ben is unable, again, this comes back to what I said in the last video with a conservative lack of empathy. Yeah. Ben is unable to see a scenario in which the majority of American people are okay with a character being gay. Like, it has to be this nefarious fucking thing.
Well, even so, like even if we considered being gay an actual character flaw, like societally speaking.
Sure. Which has been true for a lot of American history.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's you know, maybe not in cinema so much that they do it, but like, if that were the case, that might be a flaw in the character, a flaw that humanizes the character. This is how storytelling is done. Not every character can be perfect. If, in fact, you do find homosexuality to be a character flaw, then that would be interesting to explore. Societally speaking, no one really thinks that anymore. I mean, Ben does, but, you know, nobody that matters. Like, alcoholism, drug abuse, like, even in the Marvel movies, someone like Tony Stark is like, he goes full fucking nationalist and is like, nah, superheroes should be held in check, and Cap goes full fucking anarcho on it, and that's interesting. Yep. These are character flaws for both of them. There's a compromise in the middle, and they're both wrong. They're too extreme, but like, this is important in storytelling, and I don't know why Ben's against it. It's super weird.
This is the Hollywood argument, same-sex marriage. Uh-oh. You like certain characters, so if you don't like their behavior, it's because you're mean and nasty. This is what Hollywood does best. This ties into the video we recently did, where we were talking about Ben, where he did the PragerU video about Friends. And look, here's more Friends. If you watch Friends, for example, and you don't think that it's moral for Rachel to sleep around and have a kid out of wedlock, especially given that she's actually in love with the father of her child, then that's because you're intolerant. This is what gets me. Ben, if people are shown an example of a character, and that character is a likable person, except for this one thing that someone deems a character flaw, and that person, through the experience of watching a story that is effectively, in the case of Friends, it's a silly little comedy, but to an extent, all stories are morality plays. If through that story you grow to like that person and realize, you know what, maybe that thing I saw as a character flaw before, it doesn't mean anything. Maybe I was wrong. That's fine.
It's called normalization.
Yeah.
Will and Grace is a great example of something like this.
Like when Captain Kirk kissed Uhura on TV, I'd imagine a lot of people back then were like, this goddamn miscegenation. They were wrong. Yeah. Just like someone who's wrong who finds gay people on TV upsetting.
Ellen or someone who Modern Family. Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah. If you think that when Murphy Brown has a child, has Ben Shapiro watched TV in the past 20 years, or is it all 90s for him?
He doesn't like Murphy Brown. She was a strong, independent woman who took to task people. In the very first episode of Murphy Brown, she actually calls out a senator for fucking around on his wife.
Oh. There's also maybe he just doesn't like dancing CG babies. Remember that 90s dancing CG baby?
What? From Murphy Brown?
Wait, was that Ally McBeal?
What?
I don't remember.
Lawyer ladies we get them all mixed up, I guess.
Single female lawyer.
I don't think Murphy Brown was a news reporter. She wasn't a lawyer.
I'm thinking of the other one then.
It's Ally McBeal.
Whoops. If you say Murphy Brown pushed the lie that there are no real negative life consequences for having a baby without a husband, you are castigated as being a thick-headed bigot as Kael was. Now, 20 years later, Candice Bergen, who played Murphy Brown, admitted Kael was right, but at the time, Kael was running for re-election, and so he had to be wrong. The left no longer makes arguments about policy's effectiveness. Their only argument is character assassination.
Our only argument is character assassination?
I disagree.
Against who?
Who
do we character assassinate?
Dan Kael, apparently.
Dan Kael?
Yeah.
We're upset about Dan Kael?
For instance,
was that the guy who couldn't spell potato? Was that the thing?
I don't remember. Donald Trump. We do our, weekly Hugo and Jake's Address the Nation thing.
Yeah, it's not always about Donald Trump.
No, but a lot of the time, because he's the president, we end up talking about Donald Trump, and there are times that we will bring up his lack of moral fiber.
Yeah, we'll talk about Bernie in 2021.
Sure, because moral fiber is important in a politician. Yeah, you agree with this, Ben. You just are on the opposite side of it. You think that, for instance, gay marriage is wrong. You believe that that's a moral character defect. Therefore, you tell stories through the use of this book and PragerU videos and your own thing.
The Daily Wire.
Yeah. That these things are wrong. Those are the stories you tell. You're just mad someone on the other side is disagreeing with you and they're more popular. That's what you're mad about. So maybe calm down, Ben. Get your feelings in check and have a rational discussion about this as opposed to whining that not everyone agrees with you.
He could make compelling arguments.
Could he? I haven't seen it.
No, I mean, he could attempt it.
Oh.
Yeah. He doesn't, though.
So,
is that the intro?
No, one more section in the intro.
Oh.
When to debate a leftist is the next part. But that's it for now. So, you can always follow us on Twitter at PapaBirdJake.
Well, Hugo Realtor. You can also subscribe to the channel Get more of your live streams. Get more of your Ben Sharipos, and do all that. You can also send packages to the PO box. It's on the screen in post. Look at that shit. How fucking fancy. How fancy was that? Scale of 1 to 10. 12.
Yes.
That was 12 fancy. You guys can't do post.
You want to help support the show, you can do so on Patreon, link in the description, and if you don't want to do that, you can always share, like, whatever this video, to help spread it to more people.
Indubitably.
Like an STD. Yeah.
We're going to infect you.
So, I guess that's it.
Did we swear in this video?
I don't know.
Monetized! We did it.
Until next time, I'm Hugo.
I'm Jake.
And this has been Hugo and Jake. See you guys next time.
Do you think Ben has any lewds?
For a second, I thought you meant Quaaludes, and I was very confused.
No, I meant lewd photos.
Yes, to both.
On the internet. Cut or uncut? No, he's Jewish.
He's Jewish. That's a cut twink dick. My favorite kind.